Karen demands that her husband eat all the extra food she cooks after his weight loss. I, 37, male, and my wife, 35, are currently cooling down from an altercation in which I told her unequivocally that she needed to make less food in the future or I would continue to not eat it. The backstory is really basic and it does not jeopardize our marriage or cause any severe problems. As a basketball player, I'm getting older, and my knees are giving out. At the end of lockdown, I weighed roughly 196 pounds and stood 5'9". I realized I needed to make a change and get back down to my pre-lockdown weight of around 163 pounds. Now, I'm down to 70 kilograms, and I'm pleased with my development. I intend to make this my new normal as I grow older. However, my wife isn't overjoyed. I've lost all of my weight, and there are no love handles for her to play with anymore. Most upsetting for her is that I don't eat as much as I used to. We rotate cooking tasks every day, and when it's my turn, I usually make just enough. But when she prepares, there's usually enough food to fill another dish. My wife is too small to eat it, and I'm now a guy who doesn't either. I always recommend that we save it for dinner the next day. I don't have breakfast, and lunch is provided by my employer. It worked for a time, the leftovers soon ended up in the garbage, and she'd ask me to make something new instead. Although things have been mostly great, she does not hesitate to observe that men should be eating seconds or thirds. It's simply the Japanese way for her. She's Japanese, and we live in Japan. She remembers her father joyfully asking for seconds and thirds. She is becoming increasingly embarrassed that her spouse dislikes her cuisine, although I enjoy it. Her cooking is excellent, and I eat as much as I can when she prepares it. It's just that she earns too much. We've talked about her portion sizes, but it always comes down to letting her cook her way. This all boiled over earlier today when she asked if I wanted a second plate of excellent fried chicken, and I declined since I was just too full. She replied, "Are you going to throw away all of this chicken? That's incredibly wasteful." I knew I was responding incorrectly, but I still said, "You are wasting all of this chicken. I told you to prepare less food. I have been telling you for months. I don't see you eating the chicken either. You're the one wasting money and effort on extra food that I won't eat, and that won't change." She's now in bed after crying, and nothing I said helped her feel better. I'm downstairs writing this. I know my attitude was incorrect at the time, but have I been a jerk throughout this weight loss journey, or at least when it comes to my wife's cooking? Should I have just swallowed it up and eaten her entire meal? Comment 1, not a jerk. You've already said a lot about it. She should have to eat whatever leftovers she makes. Hopefully, this is not the case, but she could be unintentionally undermining your weight reduction. Comment 2, not a jerk. It is an Asian phenomenon. Food means love. I'm Chinese, and my mother regularly overcooks and then comments on all of our weights. It took almost 20 years and all of the kids moved out for her to finally cook less, or at least enough so that everyone was finished and there were no leftovers when we visited her. Simply tell your wife that you do not perceive food in the same manner. Food provides sustenance, and overeating is a dangerous habit. Excess weight at your age causes health concerns, and if she cares about you, she would not want that. Just keep repeating it while telling her that you still love her, even if you want to eat less of what she prepares. Now to the next story, story 2. My parents threatened to skip my wedding if I didn't invite my sister, who slept with my boyfriend. What happened next shocked everyone. I, 28F, never expected to be in this predicament, yet here I am. My sister Lizzie, 26F, and I used to be quite close growing up. We shared a room in our little suburban home, whispering secrets late into the night and daydreaming about our future. Lizzie was always the more outgoing one, with a talent for art and music, whereas I was the studious kind, constantly buried in a book. Despite our disputes, we remained linked. Our parents, John, 55M, and Mary, 53F, raised us to prioritize family above all else. Dad worked long hours as a construction foreman to support us, while Mom worked part-time and ran the family. They instilled in us a strong sense of loyalty and taught us the value of sticking together through thick and thin. Little did I know how much my familial loyalty would be tested in the coming years. I met Jake, 30M, in my sophomore year of college. He was a senior, personable and popular, with a love of books that mirrored mine. We bonded over our mutual love of classic novels, and we spent many hours in quaint coffee shops talking about our favorite authors. Jake was my first serious boyfriend, and I fell hard and quickly. After graduation, Jake opted to stay in town and work at a local publishing business. Our relationship grew stronger, and we soon began discussing our future together. We moved in together after graduation, sharing a small but comfortable apartment near the city center. Jake was always supportive of my marketing career goals and encouraged me to aim high. Meanwhile, Lizzie had decided to pursue her passion for art rather than attend college. She worked several jobs to support herself while attempting to establish a name in the local art community. I admired her tenacity and determination, even though our parents were dismayed by her decision not to pursue more study. Jake and Lizzie hit it off from the start. They shared an interest in indie music and abstract art, frequently engaged in passionate debates about the newest gallery openings or underground bands. I was overjoyed that my boyfriend and sister got along so well, never suspecting that their relationship would develop into something more sinister. 5 years into our partnership, Jake and I were doing well. We'd weathered the storms of early adulthood together, including job changes, financial difficulties, and the death of our beloved childhood dog. We had even begun casually researching engagement rings online, fantasizing about a future wedding and the family we would create together. In contrast, Lizzie's life was more turbulent. She moved from job to job, trying to make ends meet while pursuing her art. There were times when she'd crash on our couch, and Jake and I would assist her financially. I didn't mind, after all, she was my sister, and I wanted to support her goals. Everything changed on a wet Tuesday in April. I had a large presentation at work and discovered I had left some important data on my home laptop. Knowing Lizzie was staying with us that week, I contacted and requested her to send the files to me. She agreed, and I didn't think anything more about it. Hours later, after completing my presentation, I opened my inbox to locate the files from Lizzie, but there was something else, an email thread that Lizzie had mistakenly left open when she gave the files. My heart stopped as I read the letters between her and Jake, which contained intimate information and arrangements for their secret rendezvous. I felt as if the ground had vanished beneath me. I left work early, my thoughts reeling, and confronted Jake in our apartment. He attempted to downplay it at first, claiming it was just a few innocent flirtations, but as I revealed more of what I'd read, his justifications fell apart. Jake finally confessed to a 6-month romance with Lizzie. He claimed that it began innocently, late-night conversations when I was sleeping or working late, a common interest for art that grew into something more. He stated he never wanted to hurt me, that he was confused about his emotions. I couldn't endure hearing it any longer and urged him to leave. Confronting Lizzie was even more challenging. I approached her modest studio apartment, my hands trembling as I knocked on the door. When she opened it, her expression sank. She knew I had found out. Unlike Jake, Lizzie did not attempt to offer explanations. She looked me in the eyes and told me she'd fallen in love with Jake, that they hadn't planned it but couldn't resist their feelings. The following several months were a haze of agony and hatred. I moved out of the apartment I shared with Jake and stayed on a friend's couch until I could locate my own place. I put myself into work, picking up extra assignments to keep my mind occupied. I cut off all contact with Jake and Lizzie, blocking their phone numbers and social media profiles. My parents were devastated by the news. They attempted to mediate at first, encouraging me to hear Lizzie out and contemplate forgiveness, but I couldn't handle the thought of being in the same room with her. The treachery was too new, too deep. They eventually stopped pushing, but I could see the sadness in their eyes every time the subject came up. After nearly a year of treatment and self-reflection, I felt ready to date again. I first met Alex, 32M, at a charity fundraiser at the local animal shelter. He was tall, with nice eyes and a kind grin that put me at ease right away. We bonded over our mutual love of dogs and our volunteer experiences at the shelter. Alex was kind and compassionate as I discussed my past. He never pushed me to go faster than I felt comfortable with, always respecting my limits. Slowly but gradually, I found myself falling in love again, this time with a man who genuinely liked and admired me. 2 years into our relationship, Alex proposed on a morning trek to our favorite viewing point. It was simple, private, and beautiful. As we started planning our wedding, I felt a mixture of excitement and dread. The thought of walking down the aisle again triggered memories I'd rather forget. Everything was going fine until my dad mentioned inviting Lizzie to the wedding. They contended that she is still family and should be present on my special day. The very suggestion made my stomach turn. How could I celebrate the most joyful day of my life with someone who had given me so much pain? I adamantly refused, informing my parents that Lizzie's presence would just bring up sad memories and could ruin the day. Alex agreed with me, saying that our wedding should be about our love and happiness, not attempting to patch relationships that may be beyond repair. My parents did not take it well. They accused me of being petty and unwilling to move forward. They even threatened not to go if Lizzie was not invited. Some of our relatives have also gotten involved, accusing me of selfishness for separating the family and asking me to be a better person. But I don't believe I'm in the wrong here. Lizzie deceived me in the worst manner possible. She slept with the man I expected to spend my life with. I fought hard to overcome that anguish and start a new life with Alex. I don't want anything to compromise my newfound contentment and calm. Reddit, am I wrong to not invite my sister to my wedding? Am I being petty, or do I have the right to remove someone who has badly injured me from one of the most important events in my life? Update 1. I'd like to thank everyone who left helpful comments and advice on my first article. The response was amazing, and it gave me the confidence to have a difficult but essential conversation with my parents. I invited them over to supper last week, determined to clear the air and establish some boundaries. The evening started out tense. Mom kept trying to shift the talk toward wedding plans, while Dad was unusually silent. After we finished our meal, I took a big breath and went in. I described in detail how Lizzie's actions had affected me, including the sleepless nights, trust issues that nearly ruined my relationship with Alex, and the therapy sessions I need to work through my pain. I told them about the panic attacks I used to get anytime I saw a couple that reminded me of Jake and Lizzie, how I'd lost weight because food tasted bad, and how I'd poured myself into work to avoid dealing with my feelings. To my amazement, Mom burst into tears midway through my explanation. Between sobbing, she acknowledged that they had pushed for Lizzie's inclusion out of remorse. It turned out that Lizzie's life had spiraled drastically after the incident. My parents told me that Lizzie had lost her job at the gallery where she had been working. Her drinking, which had previously been sociable, had progressed to the point that she was rarely sober. She'd been in a run of short-lived, destructive relationships, one of which left her in the hospital with a broken arm. Mom and Dad felt responsible for not seeing Lizzie's problem sooner. They scolded themselves for applauding her free spirit without acknowledging that she may have required more guidance and assistance. In their thoughts, inviting Lizzie to the wedding was a means to reintegrate her into the group and possibly help her get her life back on track. While I sympathized with Lizzie's hardships, I made it clear that this did not excuse her behavior or erase the anguish she caused me. I reminded them of all the instances they had assisted Lizzie financially and emotionally over the years, emphasizing how supportive they had always been as parents. I emphasized that I was not responsible for Lizzie's well-being, and I shouldn't have to give up my peace of mind for her. Dad, who had kept silent for the majority of the conversation, suddenly piped out. He told me a story from his own background that I had never heard before. Apparently, his older brother had done something similar, compromising Dad's trust significantly when they were younger. They had never really reconciled, and I could see sadness in Dad's eyes as he recounted decades of stressful family reunions and squandered possibilities. He stated that he did not want the same for Lizzie and me, which is why he has been pushing for reconciliation, but he also admitted that he couldn't compel forgiveness and that healing had to happen on my own terms. Dad apologized for pressuring me and promised that he and Mom would respect my decision regarding the wedding. He also told me that they would attend, with or without Lizzie. My parents agreed to speak with the relatives who had been causing me problems and explain the issue. They vowed to stop any future attempts to guilt-trip me into inviting Lizzie. After this emotional chat, I felt as if a weight had been lifted from my shoulders. Although my feelings remained unresolved, I felt heard and understood by my parents for the first time since the ordeal began. Alex, who had made himself scarce during the dinner to allow us peace, was quite supportive when I told him later that night. He held me while I cried, a mixture of relief and anguish sweeping over me. He advised we take a weekend trip to decompress and refocus on our wedding planning. We had a wonderful weekend at a nearby beach town, simply enjoying each other's company and finalizing some wedding plans. We chose our wedding cake, chocolate with raspberry filling, planned the celebration playlist, and even practiced our first dance on the beach under the starlight. This event has increased my appreciation for Alex. He's been my rock through it all, constantly prioritizing my sentiments and wholeheartedly supporting me. I am more confident than ever that I am marrying the right guy. The wedding is now less than 2 months away, and I'm looking forward to celebrating our love with those who actually care about us. I still feel sad about Lizzie's absence, but I know this is the best decision for my mental health and happiness. Thank you again, Reddit, for assisting me in standing my ground and prioritizing my well-being. Your support has meant more than you realize. Update 2. It has been a crazy few weeks since my last post, and I have some unexpected news to offer. I received Lizzie's letter around 3 weeks ago. The envelope lay on our kitchen counter for days, and I hesitated whether to open it or throw it away. Alex, ever the voice of reason, argued that reading it might bring some closure, even if I choose not to react. Finally, on a peaceful Sunday morning, I mustered the confidence to open the letter. It was many pages lengthy and contained Lizzie's trademark loopy handwriting. As I read, I could practically hear her voice in my thoughts, recalling late-night chats and secrets from our youth. Lizzie began by acknowledging the grief she had caused me, accepting full responsibility for her actions without making excuses. She wrote of the downward spiral her life had taken after Jake left her, and how she turned to drink to alleviate her remorse and shame. She admitted to suffering from depression, which had begun long before the episode with Jake but had increased dramatically thereafter. Her admission that she was going to rehab stunned me the most. She had apparently been in a treatment facility for the previous 6 months, focusing on her sobriety and mental wellness. She wrote of the grueling treatment sessions, group gatherings, and the difficult task of confronting her demons. Lizzie mentioned that part of her healing journey was making amends to individuals she had harmed. She clarified that she did not seek forgiveness and respected my decision not to include her at the wedding. Her intention in writing was just to apologize and inform me that she was attempting to become a better person. The letter finished with a story from our childhood. I stood up for her against some bullies at school. Lizzie stated that she had always admired my tenacity and honesty, and that betraying me was her biggest regret in life. I'd want to say that after reading the letter, I felt a rush of forgiveness, but the truth is that I was left conflicted. A part of me remained furious and sad, while another sensed a glimmer of the sisterly affection we had shared. I decided to take some time to examine my emotions before making any decisions. After a few days of deliberation and numerous conversations with Alex, I decided to meet Lizzie at a neutral location, a quiet cafe in town. Seeing her in person after 3 years seemed weird. She looked different, thinner, with black circles under her eyes, but she exuded a peace that had not been there before. Our conversation began awkwardly, with many pauses and hesitant phrases, but as we spoke, it became easier. Lizzie restated what she had said in the letter, her voice breaking with emotion as she apologized once more for the hurt she had caused. She told me more about her sober journey and the work she had done in therapy. Lizzie even showed me a journal in which she had been writing letters to me as part of her recovery, though she had no intention of sending them. Reading excerpts from her genuine unedited thoughts during those sad days was eye-opening. I will not lie, it was an emotional meeting. We both shed tears as we discussed the past and the agony we had both endured. Lizzie revealed that she and Jake had split up just months after I discovered them, their relationship collapsing under the weight of guilt and resentment. She hadn't communicated with him since. By the end of our appointment, I felt a sense of closure that I hadn't realized I needed. The wrath that had been burning inside me for years began to subside, and was replaced by a complex mix of sadness, relief, and cautious hope. After much deliberation and debate with Alex, I have decided not to invite Lizzie to the wedding. It's too soon and I want to enjoy my special day without additional worry or mental issues. However, I've agreed to try to re-establish our friendship gradually, beginning with occasional text messages and perhaps coffee meets in the future. Lizzie acknowledged and appreciated my decision. She even sent Alex and me a modest gift, a lovely hand-painted letter wishing us success in our marriage. It reminded me of the cards she used to make for my birthdays when we were younger, which brought back bittersweet memories. I understand that this process of healing and regaining trust will be long and may be challenging. There are still times when the anguish of betrayal resurfaces, reminding me of everything we have lost. But for the first time in 3 years, I am optimistic about having my sister back in my life eventually. The wedding preparations are in full flow. Alex and I are delighted to celebrate our love with our closest friends and family. While Lizzie will not be present, I am more at ease with that decision now. Our special day will be spent looking forward to our future together, rather than lingering on past hurts. Update 3. It's been 6 months since my wedding, and I wanted to provide you with a last report on this chapter of my life. The wedding day was simply wonderful. Alex and I exchanged vows in front of our loved ones in the stunning vineyard setting we had chosen. The weather was perfect, with a moderate breeze and brilliant blue skies that appeared to reflect the joy I felt inside my heart. I walked down the aisle on my father's arm, my gaze fixed on Alex's. All of the drama and pain of the previous years seemed to fade away in that instant. As I stood at the altar with my soon-to-be husband, all I could feel was love and appreciation. The ceremony was modest and personal, with readings picked by our closest friends and vows written by ourselves. There wasn't a dry eye in the house when Alex swore to always be my safe harbor, and I promised to be his constant companion throughout life's experiences. The reception was a happy occasion. The meal was wonderful, the wine was plenty, and the dance floor was full all night. My parents were on their best behavior, honoring Alex and me with no mention of Lizzie. It was great to see them so joyful and supportive. Lizzie followed my requests and did not attempt to contact me on the wedding day. Instead, she delivered a gorgeous bouquet of sunflowers, my favorite flower since childhood, to my hotel room. The accompanying note congratulated us and wished us a life of happiness. It was a lovely gesture that I appreciated even more than I had imagined. Since the wedding, Alex and I have adjusted into married life, which has been fantastic. We recently purchased our first home together, a quaint craftsman-style house with a modest backyard. We've enjoyed making it our own by painting the walls and adding a garden. It feels nice to be starting a life together and making new memories in a space that is genuinely ours. My friendship with Lizzie is gradually improving. We've had a few more coffee meetings and are now texting on a regular basis. Our chats are still somewhat guarded, but there is a developing comfort between us that reminds me of our previous connection. Last month, we even ate dinner with our parents. It was a little awkward at begin, with everyone trying to avoid certain issues, but as the evening proceeded it became more like old times. Lizzie remains committed to her recovery and has been making significant improvements in her life. She's back in school, training to be a counselor for disturbed teenagers. She thinks her own experiences have given her insight into the difficulties that young people encounter, and she wants to help others avoid the mistakes she did. Seeing her progress and commitment to changing her life has aided me in my forgiveness journey. Lizzie recently inquired if she might exhibit some of her work at a local gallery. I hesitated at first, recollections of her previous artistic pursuits triggering conflicting feelings, but I decided to go. With Alex by my side for support. Walking into the gallery, I was taken aback by the transformation in her work. The chaotic dark pieces of her turbulent years were replaced by brilliant, hopeful canvases that appeared to throb with life. One painting in particular caught my eye. 2 interwoven trees with branches reaching for the sky. Lizzie subsequently told me that it reflected her wish for our relationship to flourish together again after our separation. While we are not back to being best friends, and I doubt we ever will be, I am delighted we are working to mend our friendship. It's a lengthy process, with occasional setbacks when past hurts resurface, but it feels right. We're learning to be sisters again in a way that honors our separate paths and who we've become. I would like to thank everyone who helped me through this difficult time. Your guidance and encouragement helped me stay strong and make the best decisions for myself. I've learned a lot about setting boundaries, self-care, and the power of forgiveness, not for the benefit of the other person, but for my own peace of mind. Looking back, I recognize that the healing process isn't linear. There are good days and bad days, moments of progress and moments of uncertainty, but I'm pleased of how far I've gone and enthusiastic about what the future holds with Alex. To anyone in a similar situation, remember that it is acceptable to prioritize your personal well-being. Healing takes time, and you don't have to forgive somebody until you're ready to do so. Trust your intuition, surround yourself with helpful people, and do not be hesitant to seek professional help if necessary. As for me, I'm looking forward to the next chapter in my relationship with Alex. We're talking about starting a family soon, and the prospect of becoming parents both excites and scares us. Whatever problems come our way, I am confident that we will confront them together, stronger for having weathered the storm.
Thank you for watching. If you haven't subscribed yet, please do so and hit the notification bell to stay updated with more shocking real-life stories happening around you.